Hi, everybody. Welcome in. Jason McIntyre, J-Mac, part of the Herd Ensemble, also part of the Volume. He's got his daily morning podcast. Will be joining us. He's all fired up for Dalvin Cook to the Jets, and we'll get to that in a second. But, I was thinking about something today because Ezekiel Elliott, Zeke, signed with the Patriots, is that there are things in life that I seek value with. I've got very flat, wide, size 12 feet. I'm looking for comfort with shoes. I'm not going to spend a lot on shoes. I want comfort. And I'm not looking for the ugliest pair available, but comfort trumps style and fashion. Same with cars. Cars to me are transportation. I know many of you have that testosterone car gene. Nothing wrong with it. My wife's a Michigan girl. She loves cars. I don't care. So I seek value in cars. I probably own, 10 cars in my life. 8 have been used. And then there are things I just won't go cheap on. I tell my kids all the time, education and experiences. If we have to pay for an expensive college, prep school, we were going to do it. And experiences. If I'm going to go on 2 vacations a year, you know what? We're going to stay at a nice hotel by the beach, walking distance. So that's important in my life. Education for my kids and experiences, because when dad's gone, I want those to be great memories. And I think most of you, there's certain things when I go to the store, I'll do value in paper towels. I'm not going to do value in certain things like coffee. And I think it's interesting that the Patriots sign Ezekiel Elliott, again, going for a guy they can get value with. Past his prime, he can be a 3-down back, but he's lost a lot of his horsepower. And, they signed Devontae Parker. There's not a big market for him. Signed him to 3 years. Juju Smith-Schuster, not a huge market for him. I just think in 2023, Kyle Shanahan's not seeking value. He went and he spent a lot of money and to make a move for Christian McCaffrey. And they signed Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and left tackle Trent Williams. They're not seeking value. They're seeking greatness because the game has changed. And I think if you start looking at the teams at the top of the AFC, Odell Beckham wasn't cheap. Baltimore went and got him. Go look at, Cincinnati. Running backs, wide receivers. Joe Burrow's going to cost money. I think if you're going to seek value in the NFL, safety, linebacker, interior offensive line, if your quarterback's got a little bit of mobility. But, I think Zeke is fine, but he's not close to Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is still got, I think, traces of his prime left. And I don't think Zeke is a bad signing, but I don't think it's a significant move. I think Dalvin Cook's a better player. But we've seen it didn't matter if it was Hunter Henry, Nelson Aguilar at one point. Bills always seeking value, and there's just not a lot of it on the offensive side of the football. The best talent evaluators, you're never going to get Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or Devontae Adams. You're never going to get those guys on the cheap. Certainly not in their prime. So I don't think it's a bad signing, but I feel once again in New England, I feel like they have most of their offensive weapons have moved out of their sweet spot athletically. Now, Dalvin Cook to the Jets. My gut feeling on this, and he's a guy that can catch, he can run. I think he's just out of his prime, but close to it. He can also block, so he's a 3-down back. But I think when Aaron Rodgers took some money off the table of his contract, it wasn't just altruism. Aaron was like, okay, I'll give some money back. What are you getting me? Get me another weapon. So, I do think it was a bit of a brand pivot for Aaron Rodgers, who always sort of took the most money in Green Bay. And I do think it shows real growth for Aaron Rodgers and kind of a community team feel that's cool. But he had to get something back in return. And this is it. Dalvin Cook's a 1-year contract. I think he's a really good player. I don't think it's their number one need, but it does allow them to bring back Breece Hall slowly. And listen, we have an extra game now. There's 17 games. You know, you don't want to give any single running back 275, 300 carries. They age fast. So I think over the course of a season, Dalvin Cook allows you to bring Breece Hall back a little more slowly. If they could, you know, they both get over 100 carries, but neither gets to 2. That's probably a very good thing. The Jets now have Aaron Rodgers. I still think the offensive line's the primary issue. I don't think running back's the number one issue. But, you know, Aaron, you got to give Aaron something. You got to give him something, a toy, a weapon for him taking a fairly profound one-time pay cut. The Cowboys also ended their holdout with elite offensive guard Zach Martin. Kind of surprised that they caved. Now, they didn't give him top of the league money. Top of the league money is about 20, 21 million for a guard. He got about 18 from 13. I thought he'd been very well compensated. You know, the Cowboys get into a space, and I think they know the reality with Dak is the more you ask Dak to do, the more mistakes you have. And last year, again, Zeke passed his prime, offensive line in a rebuild. Michael Gallup was slow in the rehab coming back. They asked Dak to do more, and he tied for the NFL lead in interceptions. And so I just don't think the offensive line is good enough now to lose their primary offensive guard. And Zach Martin's a, you know, first ballot Hall of Fame guy. He's arguably the best guard in the NFL. Certainly has been top 1 or 2 for the last 8-9 years. 8-time Pro Bowler. So I'm a little surprised they caved. Jerry has often done that with older players or star players that he likes. Jalen Smith, a linebacker, it didn't work. Zeke, they paid him 2 years early, probably shouldn't have. DeMarco Lawrence has been a good player for them. So, you know, the Cowboys, you got Brandon Cooks is new, Dalton Schultz is gone, Zeke is gone, Zach Martin out, kind of a drip, 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 leading you to believe, are we putting more on Dak's table than he's comfortable with? Also, Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, is gone. So there's a lot of things you've taken away from Dak. My guess is they sat down Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones and said, you know, a lot of things have been taken away. Let's insert something back into the mix. The best interior offensive lineman the Cowboys have had, you know, since Larry Allen. Been a long time. This baseball season continues to heat up. You could watch it on TV, but what's better than going to the park on a beautiful summer day with friends? For last-minute amazing deals on tickets, check out Game Time, the fastest-growing ticket app in the United States. And it doesn't stop at just sports. Summer concerts, comedy tours, all across the country. Game Time has your tickets. Download the Game Time app, and the redeem code is Colin. That's me, COLIN, $20 off your first purchase. $20, no matter where you live. Go out, end the summer in style. Comedy, baseball, concerts. It's the Game Time app. Last minute deals. Lowest prices guaranteed. $20 off your first purchase. $20. Terms apply. All right, we bring in J-Mac. So how fitting. Dalvin Cook signs with the Jets. He can block, he can catch, he can run. I still feel like he may have one more year of his prime left, whereas Zeke, I feel like, is 3 years out of his prime, at least 2. I feel like Dalvin Cook, it feels like he's closer to his prime. Is that fair?
Oh, certainly. I mean, Colin, listen, let's be realistic, okay? And I'm not just saying this as a hyperbolic Jets fan. You know, we had this interview scheduled before the Dalvin Cook news. Tell me who has the best skill position players in the AFC East between the Bills, the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Patriots. I've looked at the Cook numbers. There wasn't a drop-off last year. The reason the Vikings had to get off of him was because of salary. They simply cannot afford him. And to build a team when you got to pay Justin Jefferson, the salary of Kirk Cousins, the offensive line, like they could not afford Dalvin Cook. I don't think it had anything to do with the numbers and the drop-off. he instantly makes the Jets have the best skill position players in the division. And if you want to zoom out and look at the conference, I mean, we're not far. I could say we, right? We're not far behind the Bengals, who are obviously elite at receiver, and Joe Burrow's better than Rodgers. But you look at that Jets team, Colin, I'm being real here. Dalvin Cook, Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, they're stacked.
Okay, who's your number 2 receiver?
So when you look at the depth of the Jets receivers, I think their depth far surpasses anything Buffalo has. Buffalo's top heavy with Stephon Diggs. Miami's top heavy. The top 2 guys are great. The Jets' depth, Allen Lazard, big 6'5" guy, can go up and get it in the red zone. Mecole Hardman, a gadget guy who they can do a lot of things with. You line up on the slot, outside. Like, we know Garrett Wilson's the one. After that, there's a lot of threes. But Colin, like, I like the depth idea above, you got a 1 and a 2. One of those guys goes down. You don't have depth. The Jets are so stacked at receiver. And this Dalvin Cook thing, listen, we don't know how Breece Hall is going to react coming back from injury. And Breece Hall, if he can sit out the first 4 games, if he's on the PUP list, Michael Carter was good, but let's be realistic. Okay. Dalvin Cook is a massive upgrade. And I'll challenge you, Colin, to find a team that got better at quarterback and running back in the NFL this offseason. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Allen Lazard. I don't like it as much as you. I think depth at receiver sounds good, but I like really great playmakers. My argument for receiving cores is when your 1 goes down, Jamar Chase, can your 2 be a 1? If Mike Williams goes down, Keenan Allen has been a 1. Jamar Chase went down. T. Higgins looked like a 1 for Cincinnati. I don't think the Jets have that. I mean, if Cooper Kupp goes down, Rams don't have a 2. Van Jefferson's a 3. So, my takeaway was that Aaron Rodgers took a pay cut. It wasn't all for altruistic reasons. In the end, he made a deal with a team. You got to get me a toy. You got to get me something fun. And this is, they could use another tackle, but there's just none on the market. But there are running backs on the market, and Dalvin's the best running back. This feels like one of those handshake deals. All take less. You got to get me another playmaker. That's what it feels like to me.
Certainly. And listen, I'll just remind you, the Jets went into last season with, hey, our guy Zach Wilson, and our running back is Michael Carter. Like, they just did not have a lot last year offensively and still managed to win 7 games. Like, you've got to feel like the arrow's pointing up with the Jets. The only way it could be pointing is up. And I just cannot stress enough. You're going from literally bottom 3 quarterback situation in the league, arguably 32nd, to instantly one of the best with Aaron Rodgers. And I know he wasn't amazing last year, but he was very good. And Wilson and Cook. This is the most exciting time for any Jets fan since Rex Ryan was dropping F-bombs on Hard Knocks over a decade ago.
I talked about this on FS1 today about I couldn't tell you the last New York team that overachieved. I guess the Giants last year making the playoffs, but the NFC was so weak. I don't feel like it was a triumph of any, great historic standard. But the Yankees and the Mets, not good. Brooklyn Nets KD, mess. Jets, underachieving. And I said, maybe it's just coincidence. But I tend to believe that as the media's gotten bigger and louder, is that a lot of the front offices in New York are weaker, and a lot of the ownership groups are weaker. And the Yankees farm system now is, nobody has the patience for it. And that I do think there is a unique volume and pressure in New York. And I do think it makes it harder on athletes. That it's just, you and I are not people that hang out on social media. I've worked with people who hang out on social media. And so they hear the noise and they react to it. You and I don't. We're more into our families. But I do think young athletes, average GMs, I don't think I'm unfair when I say this. You lived out east. I lived there for a decade. Sports radio, they actually talk sports. I live in Los Angeles. Sports talk radio doesn't even talk sports. It's all guy talk. You can't do that out east. People care more. It's louder. It's more intense. They call you out by names. Like WFAN is calling out people by names, and those guys hear it. So like that, my thing with the Jets is they've got to start 3-3. They go 2-4. It's ugly. Am I wrong? I think it affects teams.
Yeah. You never want to go overboard, but that Buffalo season opener is extremely important. And we touched on this on the show. Colin, Jets offensive line is the biggest weakness. Buffalo Bills have a top 5 defense in the league. If Von Miller plays, we don't know if he's going to be back. And they obliterate the Jets offensive line the way they did the Rams last year in the opener. You saw the Rams season just snowball and careen into a disaster. Well, in week 2, the Jets then travel to Dallas and Micah Parsons, who's maybe the defensive player of the year. Colin, this is setting up as first 2 weeks, you have to get a win. There's no 0-2. That Buffalo game under the spotlight of the New York media at night, Monday Night Football, I believe. Colin, that game's going to be enormous. Now, luckily, Aaron Rodgers, he's not the kind of guy who gets worried, right? He's used to the spotlight in the prime time. But I cannot stress enough how excited I am for that game. It's still a month out. But, Colin, if the Jets lose and Rodgers stinks, throws a pick 6, it's going to be the media is just going to kill him. That's just what's going to happen.
It's I was watching the Raiders, Niners, and I was really paying attention to the Niners. Although it was interesting to watch this young Purdue quarterback for the Raiders. It's like, is he this year's Brock Purdy? He was actually pretty interesting. I don't know. But, it's funny. There's this old saying in the NFL, or this belief, is that when you get a new GM, he's not loyal to the previous GM's mistakes. That sometimes a GM, to preserve his picks, like Les Snead whiffed on Tutu Atwell. If they had a new GM tomorrow, he'd bail on Tutu Atwell, right? But, Les Snead's going to be more loyal to him. Logan Bruss looks like he can't play guard. They drafted him to be a guard in the 3rd round. Now they've moved him to tackle. So, there's this sense is you're more loyal to your picks to preserve your reputation. Oh. And, when I watch Trey Lance, it just doesn't work. Like, he's just overwhelmed. He's not accurate. He's not as twitchy or athletic as they thought. And I think Kyle Shanahan is ready to just completely move off him because he didn't want him anyway. Whereas John Lynch is John Lynch. But it was funny watching that game. Sam Darnold looked really good. And I thought they're going to go with Brock Purdy because he's a more accurate thrower. But when I watched Darnold, and I love Darnold, I thought there were moments when he was with the Jets. He made some incredible plays. Do you think Sam Darnold could start and win games if Brock Purdy's elbow didn't recover? Do you think Darnold, like Baker, we kind of believe it's over. Nobody's going to. Do you think Darnold, as a Jets fan, do you think he has anything left in the tank if he was a starter?
Yeah. What is he, like 26? 20? I don't even know. He's in his mid-20s. He's got plenty left. I think the scary thing, just listening to you break that down, Colin, it's like, wait a minute. Purdy got hurt in January, okay? Even if it's a 7-month injury. The season was still 9 months away. You're telling me that they had to go pick up Sam Darnold? It's almost as if, hey, what if we got Sam Darnold and this Trey thing doesn't work out? Oh, no, Sam was just insurance for Purdy. And then Sam picked it up and we just lucked into Sam Darnold. And that's an easier way to kind of write off Trey Lance. Like, Trey Lance and his agent should have put his foot down. Why are you bringing another quarterback? I'm ready. I'm back from injury. It's my job. You guys drafted me. Why wouldn't Trey Lance put his foot down? And I think it's because he's like a young guy. This guy. I think somebody put up the stat, I don't know, on social media if you saw this, that Trey Lance, when you look at his college and NFL, has like fewer pass attempts than Geno Smith had in like the last 2 years. Something obscure. Like, he just hasn't played a lot of football. And Colin now opening his 3rd on the depth chart? Yeah, I don't think loyalty exists in sports. I know you and I kind of differ on this. What's the saying? You're only loyal as your options.
Yeah.
I don't know that Trey Lance has many options right now. And I think the headline that I did was Trey Lance to the Vikings. Let's just keep an eye on that as this Viking season unravels.
From Minnesota.
Stuff I've been reading. Yeah, stuff I've been reading on Minnesota. Maybe not looking as great as we thought. Like 13 wins. Okay, they'll go down to 9 or 10. Will they? I don't know. You just start to look at like Dalvin Cook. I get to the Jets. You start looking at his numbers. You think Alex Madison can really replace those numbers from Dalvin Cook in the pass and run game? I don't know. Madison's I play fantasy football. He's a good handcuff guy. He's not a great starter. Like, I don't know. There's a world where the Vikings are like, 8 and 9. Yeah, let's move on from Kirk Cousins. Who can we put in here on the cheap and then rebuild and fortify around him the way the Niners have really built what is kind of the blueprint for the NFL right now?
So, I feel like I've got most of my divisions down, and in most instances, I'm just taking the best quarterback. And I think you've talked me into taking the Saints, although they're going to be thin at running back. Probably take the Saints to win that division. I'll take Carolina as a wild card team. Is there a team to you that won't make the playoffs and it will shock people? Because you and I are both sort of more optimistic early in a season. Nobody wants to be a downer. After watching the Broncos, I don't know if it would be a shock, but watching them struggle in the first 3 series against Arizona, I'm like, man, this is not plug and play. Like this is really choppy. But that wouldn't be a surprise because I think we all understand the Chargers and the Chiefs have really stacked rosters. Yeah. Do you have oh crap, they didn't make the playoffs team?
I was going to save this for the herd. It's probably too hot for the volume audience, Colin. But, you look at the Chargers and year 1 in Brandon Staley, they were in week 17 up against the Raiders, national television game. All they needed was the tie to get to overtime. A game ends in a tie and both teams go to the playoff, right? And Staley messes that up, calls timeout. Raiders kick the field goal. Chargers miss the playoffs, but everything's looking great. We got Justin Herbert. Year 2, Herbert's injured. Staley gets less aggressive. This is kind of an underplayed story. He started to get more cautious. Remember, first year he was a head coach, led the NFL in 4th down conversions. One of the most aggressive coaches, was very good, but the media got on his case. He started to dial it back last year. Started to coach maybe a little scared. They make the playoffs. He blows a huge lead. He enters year 3, and they drafted a receiver who you seem to like, the kid Johnson from TCU.
Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, we like the offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. But as you said, the division is loaded, the schedule is not easy, and the AFC is a gauntlet. If I'm picking a team to miss the playoffs, here's a crazy scenario. Chargers miss the playoffs, decide, man, we ruined Justin Herbert's rookie deal. We have no playoff wins, 1 playoff appearance. Staley, you're out of here. We're going to make a run at a big-time coach. And you happen to talk about a coach Monday on the herd that, is facing some battles with the NCAA and had dabbled in the NFL last summer, I think, or last February. He interviewed with the Vikings. And he was, I guess, chatting with the Chargers, the Carolina Panthers owner. His name is Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, obviously, loves California. His time with San Francisco. What if the Chargers miss the playoffs? 7-10, 8-9. That's not going to get it. And
9-8. 9-8 is probably going to miss the playoffs in the AFC.
So they miss the playoffs. Chargers do. They say, you know what? Sorry, Staley. The ship has sailed. Oh, Jim Harbaugh's on the market? And Jim Harbaugh sees, I can get Justin Herbert? You're telling me that's not getting Jim Harbaugh to the NFL in a heartbeat? Now, the only hiccup here, and the owners of the Chargers have been kind of notorious cheapskates. Maybe one of the kids gets his dad, hey, Dad, open up the book. We got to get Jim Harbaugh in here. And Chargers miss the playoffs, but it's a blessing in disguise. They bring in Jim Harbaugh to work with Justin Herbert. How do you like that?
We talked about this today. Harbaugh's never failed. That doesn't mean he won a national title at Stanford or a Super Bowl, but he's never failed. And I mean, Saban, Spurrier, great coaches. Urban Meyer, great coaches, struggled in the NFL. You would leave Michigan, and it would be deemed a success if you finish with 3 straight wins over the Buckeyes. I don't even remember the last time Michigan did that against Ohio State, and you got to the playoff and even won a playoff game. And so if Jim Harbaugh, let's say they lose to LSU or Georgia in the final, Harbaugh could say, I took over for Brady Hoke. It was a mess. Won 10 games the first year, ended up in the last 3 years getting to the playoff twice, 3 straight Ohio State wins, and losing to an SEC power in the final. That's absolutely a success story for Michigan. Absolutely. Jim Harbaugh can leave with his head high because what forced like Jimmy Johnson, Pete Carroll out? And I think this has happened to a lot of coaches. They get worn out from kind of the hypocrisy of the NCAA where they sort of pick and choose who they punish. I think Jim Harbaugh would look at it and say, enough. I mean, guys, we're doing cheeseburgers here. You've got SEC schools paying players through the churches for 1,000 years. I could see Harbaugh if they beat the Buckeyes. It's one of those things where Ohio State fans would privately have to admit Harbaugh beating us for the third time in a row is a good thing because he leaves, and then who's on the market? Like, you're not going to get Harbaugh on the market. He doesn't exist. So kind of my takeaway is it would be the time. NCAA breathing down your neck, playoff second year in a row, Buckeye win. I can see it happening.
And think about the options that Harbaugh was thinking about. The Carolina Panthers, who had the number 1 pick, they got Bryce Young. Like, you'd like Bryce Young more than I do.
Yeah.
He's probably going to be a fine quarterback. Under no circumstances is he ever going to be as good in the NFL as Justin Herbert. Let's just be obvious. And then he talked to the Vikings. Kirk Cousins, very good quarterback, won a lot of games. I think if you and I and like 32 NFL GMs were polled, they'd rather have Justin Herbert than Kirk Cousins. So
yeah, this is
one of those jobs where it's going to be a feeding frenzy. We had Sean Payton ticketed for this job, and then Staley makes the playoffs, and it looked like up, what was it, 27-3 or whatever in the playoff? Like, it looked like Staley was fine. Then he blows the game. You thought, oh, he's going to get fired, and they kept him and replaced his offensive coordinator. So we'll see. But Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers would sure spice things up, especially Chargers, right? Dealing with the Rams out here, and the Rams are like the big deal. They win the Super Bowl. We got to do something, right?
Well, he'd have his left tackle in Rashawn Slater. He'd have a star young receiver. He'd have his center in Corey Linsley. He'd have his quarterback. The Spanoses are not big meddlers. They're really not. You can say they go cheap. They're not meddlers. And Tom Telesco is considered, a very solid top 10, 12 general manager. That's about as well as you can do. I mean, if you go look at most job openings in the NFL, Washington could have one. You've got Sam Howell. Dallas could potentially have one. You've got the meddling of Jerry Jones.
That's a good point.
I mean, you start looking around and you're like, who else? Well, the Raiders could have one. You don't have a quarterback. Tampa could have one. I like the GM, but right now you don't have a quarterback. The Chargers, I get a left tackle, star receiver, quarterback, center, excellent GM, quality of life. Harbaugh's going to have choices. And my takeaway is, would the Spanoses open up the checkbook? Their history is no on coaches, but Marty Schottenheimer wasn't cheap. So they deserve credit there. Marty Schottenheimer wasn't cheap. I don't think that's a crazy. I mean, one of the things you and I like to do is theorize, make predictions, and I don't think that's a crazy one. When one of the things that I watched this weekend, and I think it's really changed in football, is, like if you have a real stable life, you have really good parents, and you go to a prep school and you go to a college, then I'm going to expect you at 23 years old to kind of have your act together out of college. If you're a child of divorce, went to a junior college, have no money, chaotic family, I'm going to view you differently. So your journey is going to basically change my expectations of what you should do as a young quarterback. Like, I watched Jordan Love sail a ball over Musgrave. I watched a less than 5 yards an attempt offensive game plan by the Packers. Seriously, Jason, I think the Packers know he can't play. I think they know it. And I think they're just trying to have him manage. I sat and watched that game. I'm like, this feels like Kenny Pickett averaged double per attempt. Kenny Pickett with an offensive line you can't trust. More than double Jordan Love's passing attempt yards. I mean, I just watched it. I watched more preseason than you, and I'm like, this ain't it, man. This is not going to work.
I'm mostly with you. The only thing giving me pause is that Packers schedule and just how soft and easy it is. Could they gum it up with defense and running and win some 17-13 slugfests against CJ Stroud and young quarterbacks? Sure they could. Like, overall, the Packers have talent. I mean, Colin, that defense has a lot of names, a lot of first-round picks. Offensive line, we'll see. We know they have 2 good running backs. Like, even if Jordan Love's not that dude, and I think you and I probably both, I think I'm on board with you. He ain't the guy. But there's a world where they say, hey, let's rein it in. Let's just do a lot of play action, a lot of bootleg, and nothing. You talk about 30 throws with Dak. Let's kind of limit Jordan Love to like 20 passes. We'll come out early, be aggressive on first down, throwing to make manageable second and third downs, and let's get a 10-0 lead, win with defense. I don't think this is going to be anything long term with Jordan Love and the Packers. It just doesn't feel like a marriage made in heaven.
So when I first met you, I knew you were a huge NFL guy and a huge college basketball guy. I don't remember. I've always been a college football guy, NFL, college football, NBA. And I have an emerging love for UFC, which I find it wildly entertaining. So I love college football. One of the things that's not good for our business is regionalism, which is why baseball is a hard topic for us. People say sometimes, not very often, but somebody will come up and say, you guys don't talk a lot of baseball. And I always say it's regional. Like nobody that in Minnesota is going to watch the Mariners, and nobody in Seattle is going to watch Tampa Bay. Like people watch their team and that's it. They don't watch. Now in the NFL or the NBA, you'll watch other stars and other teams. And so I think this is the best college football year potentially that I remember. USC, Texas, Clemson, Michigan, Ohio State, LSU, Georgia, Bama, I think all are fairly similar. Bama and Georgia have better rosters, don't have the quarterback. Texas, USC don't quite have the rosters, but have great quarterbacks. Are you a huge college football fan? Because
yeah. Without question. Love college football. So you know that you talked about having when you had kids. So we had kids when we were in Pennsylvania, and I would like wake up Saturday, the usual. Hey, got to watch the college football pregame shows. Then I'm sitting around watching the games. Well, you got a wife, and then you get kids, and you got to make decisions on like, hey, I'm going to do this all day Sunday. Can I still do it all day Saturday? And that doesn't totally work. And so I didn't abandon college football, but I stopped watching the pregame shows. This was like, 10, 12 years ago. And then once you stop like getting into the pregame shows, then you're, okay, well, I can miss the kickoff, the early games. And then it's like, oh, they're putting all the good games at night. I'll just punt until the night games. And then it's like, wait a minute, Saturday night, I kind of want to go out. So yes, college football has taken a backseat to me. But Colin, what I'll say is interesting is this. When I got to Fox, my history as like a worker in media, I'm like finding any angle I can succeed in, right, collecting whatever domain expertise I can, and then just going full hoe. So college football season starts. I think this was 2018. And I went to our digital team and I was like, hey, why are we not doing any college football gambling, guys? I'm watching the games. I'm betting on the games. Let's do some videos. So I started doing videos on college football. We do like a pick six and a Texas, Oklahoma. Who you got? And I break it down for like 30 seconds. And we start to post these videos online for Fox Sports. And they're like, holy cow, we got to do this big. So we're doing all these gambling videos. And that fed my college football even more, the gambling. And then I started to do draft stuff. So in a weird way, I don't watch as much, but I'm definitely reading as much because I've got to pay attention to injuries and the coaching moves. And I do I have some friends who are in the, let's just say, executive search firm world. And they like to feed me who's hot, who people are coveting. And so I'm definitely paying attention, but I'm not watching as much because, time is tough when you got two young kids.
No, listen, it's a reality. So my kids are out of the house now, so I have nothing but time to watch sports. So I did go through about an 8-year period where college football was harder for me. I had to kind of make a choice. And so I would pick like two early games. When I first started watching college football years ago, they'd put the best games of the day on at 9 a.m. 30 years ago. But now there's so much money to be made. Most of the good games outside of Fox's noon game, most of them are 3:30 Pacific on. And so, I had to watch that early game, but Ann wanted to go out by like 7:30. And it's like, I had to make that choice because Sunday Night Football, is top of the chart. So I do think you and I both put our family first, but I think college football this year is really going to be, I think, as captivating, as college football's been in probably 15 years. I think one of the things that's interesting is the NIL is a bit of an S show, and so is the transfer portal. And for a long time, college football coaches would tell me that they preferred college over the NFL because you had more off time. Well, now there's 2 recruiting periods, and now the transfer portal. And the truth is the NFL job is better than the college job and now pays more with a better pension. So I wonder how long college football can keep Lincoln Riley and Jim Harbaugh and some of these very clever offensive coaches, Ryan Day, because it was always understood you had control of your personnel in college, you were the richest guy on campus, you didn't have a crazy owner, and you had a really nice offseason. That offseason's over. Lincoln Riley may get 6 days a year. He's got NIL. He's got transfer portal. He's got 2 recruiting periods. He's got boosters. So I think one of the trends to keep your eye on over the next 3 years is, can USC, they can pay Lincoln Riley. Can they keep him? I think it's become a miserable job. Now your plane flights, if you're Lincoln Riley, now you've got longer plane flights. Harbaugh's got longer flights out west. That's less time with the family. You have to leave earlier. We're putting a load. I know they make a lot of money, but we're putting a load on college coaches. You and I have always known a college basketball coach doesn't translate to the NBA, but college football coaches have translated for years to the NFL. I don't know. That's my kind of next 5 years thing to keep your eye on.
It's interesting because I was just thinking like, well, wait a sec. The college football playoff is expanding. So more coaches are going to be able to say, I made the playoff. Hey, I'm in the playoff three of the last 5 years. You can't fire me. So it's almost like coaches will have more security. And though some of those guys you named, Ryan Day's not going to be missing the playoff when they expand it. He's not. The best out, Lincoln Riley's not going to be missing the playoff. And so they'll have the security, but at the same time, they'll now have a better resume to the NFL. Hey, man, look what I'm doing. Every year, I've got one of the best teams in the country, and not just in the rankings, but we're in the playoff, the big money games at the end of the season. So, yeah, I think I would agree with you that they're probably going to be worn down because, remember, you recruit a kid, you sign him, he's yours, unless he wants to leave because he doesn't have playing time. Now you got to keep him. I don't even know the Pitt coach's name. All he does is complain because he finds these diamonds in the rough. They look awesome, and then the big schools come and are poaching, like treating Pitt and some of these other schools like they're like AAA farm clubs. Hey, you get the guy out of high school and JUCO, pump him up for a year, then we'll take him over here to our big boy school. So like that's going to get old quick for a lot of those schools. That's another wrinkle in college football that's going to get good. And I will think, so, we talked a little bit about the quarterback situation, how good it is this year. If you look at the ages of some of these guys, Colin, because of the COVID year, you've got guys sticking around much longer. Almost all these prospects, even like Hendon Hooker, they're like 22, 23, 24 years old coming into the NFL. Kenny Pickett, I mean, he really only showed for 1 year in college. That's it. And now here we are, year 2 in the NFL, and he's like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be 26 in a minute. And it's like, wow, he looks kind of poised and mature. You're not getting these young Johnny Manziel dudes anymore, which is kind of a benefit of COVID. Quarterbacks sticking around a lot longer.
What side are you on one NBA topic? Are you on the Daryl Morey side, who sometimes can be addicted to stars and personalities, or the James Harden side, where promises were probably made financially and Daryl Morey now doesn't want anything to do with him? I think Harden is trying to pressure Daryl Morey to make a deal with the Clippers, and by calling him a liar, it's personal. Daryl Morey will suck it up, lose the deal to the Clippers, won't demand Terrence Mann. I guess that's one of the guys that Daryl Morey wants and the Clippers don't want to give up. Hey, he's a rotational player, good player. What is your takeaway? Who's at fault here?
So I think I'm going to side with James Harden, Colin. And I understand his unhappiness. I have like a incendiary take on Harden. I want to be careful with what I say here, but when you call someone a liar in a public manner like that, like you better have stuff to back it up. Now, I don't know if that's a result of something that happened during the season, after the season, but Chris Paul, if you remember a couple years ago, Chris Paul came out and said, Daryl Morey told me I was going to be with the organization like 2 days ago. He's like, I'm not trading you. We're keeping you. And then 2 days later, I read on social media, I got traded. So this guy's a liar. So Chris Paul is saying that Daryl Morey historically has not kept promises. Now James Harden is saying the same thing. And Colin, I got to wonder if Harden is so dug in. We noticed that he made this big statement in China during a press tour. By the way, did you notice the guy who broke the story was a reporter, and he had his name on the video, Sham Sharania. So it's almost as if he's traveling with James Harden in his camp in China. Just file that away for later. So James Harden making these statements in China. And do you know who, Colin, who's one of the most popular NBA players in China? James Harden. And you know how that is? So when Yao Ming came to the NBA, they started they had been broadcasting games in China. Obviously, everybody in China loves the Houston Rockets. Tracy McGrady's a huge guy. Yao Ming's a huge guy. Well, when they leave, there's still a billion Rocket fans. James Harden arrives with Dwight Howard. Oh, by the way, you know where Dwight Howard played last year? China. I wonder if James Harden is seeing the writing on the wall. Man, I don't have a market. These guys want to pay me on the cheap. I know I'm making my money because I opted in, but where's my next deal going to be? I'm not getting 3 years, 60 mil. I'm not getting one of these Anthony Davis deals. I'm not getting a LeBron deal. And I start to wonder, we just saw Lionel Messi turn down $1 billion in Saudi Arabia. Okay? Lionel Messi said, I'll go to the MLS. I'll get a chunk of the team and the Apple profits. What if James Harden said, I'm sick of this Daryl Morey crap. No teams want me. That's fine. I'll go where I'm loved. I thought Houston loved me. They went after Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet. That free agency opens up. Let's get Fred VanVleet. Harden had been saying for months that's where he would love to go. So where does James Harden feel the love? And the answer is China. He's one of the most popular NBA players in China. Steph Curry and the Warriors obviously have been dominating, so they're number one. But Harden's right up there. And you start to see, some of these older NBA players, if they don't have the market that they want, do they explore international options? James Harden could still do really well in China. He averaged like 21-10 this past season in the NBA. He's a good player, but if he feels unhappy and he's getting lied to and nobody wants to pay him, I'm just going to go where they love me, Colin. And I think you would agree. Sometimes you got to feel the love, man.
It really is an interesting take. Saudi Arabia is now a real player, Neymar.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's the craziest thing I've heard today. I think that's an interesting take. You
know who would be right behind him?
Who?
The guy who commented on social media about Adrian Wojnarowski, and that's Kyrie Irving. We know Kyrie Irving is as out there as anybody in the NBA. And you look at sneaker deals gone awry and where he would go to, middle finger the NBA and get paid and feel the love. Kyrie Irving following James Harden would not shock me in the least. Now, he's a little younger than Harden, but I think he only signed like a 2-year deal with Dallas.
He's persona non grata for most NBA GMs.
There you go. You don't want to deal with these guys, and you're not going to pay him the $30 million. Well, where can you go get the money and hoop where everybody loves you? You think the media is going to crush James Harden in China? No way. They're not going to do that. So let's just keep it in mind a year, 18 months, if you start hearing James Harden China rumors.
Jason McIntyre, buddy, it was great. We're going to be doing this every week, getting some picks on Thursday. Love having you back from vacay. I know how much your family means to you, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, pal.